Hey Goddess, welcome to the Hey Goddess podcast. Today we are talking about something that has been resonating deeply with both this beautiful goddess and myself. But before I get to that, let's introduce us. The beautiful goddess next to me is Angie K. She is the author of Creation Codes Rise of the Goddess, Navigating Spiritual Awakening and Kundalini Energy. If you are looking for an ascension guidebook full of compassion, personal trauma, and triumph, and tips on how to reclaim your goddess energy, this is it. We will link it below. You can get it on Amazon. Super easy peasy. She is also a goddess CEO, founder of the Goddess Society, intuitive gifts trainer, divine feminine embodiment and law of attraction coach. And to see more of Angie K, check out her website below. I am Wendy Lou. I am a writer, published author, professional editor, and copywriter, Reiki Master, all around energy magician, and a homeschool mom. And to see more of what I do, my website will also be linked below. And I am also currently working on my first nonfiction book around parenting through the spiritual journey. So that's very exciting. So today we're going to talk about something that we were really resonating with today, which is typically how we tend to choose our topics. Like, okay, what's coming now? Today we're going to talk about overgiving. And as light workers, star seeds, wanderers, whatever term you might resonate with, it is a huge, huge hurdle to heal. It's part of the savior complex. And I think that there's a huge collective layer of that that's lifting right now. Angie and I are both going through it big time. So share how it kind of came up for you.
I feel like this has been something that I've had to look at from every angle my whole life, probably you too, because when you come in as a light worker with a big, huge open heart, then you just want to serve and serve and serve, but sometimes to your own detriment. I know that's been my thing. I know you from the military, but I know even starting in corporate or just starting in my family life, starting really young, always wanting to give more
Mm-hmm.
and more, but to the detriment of my own health, my energy, and then moving into the space of jobs and the work environment, always wanting to give so much, 110%, as much as I could possibly give to anyone. And then, as you know, in corporate, and it's probably the same in the military, when you do that, they'll just give you more work. It took me
Mm-hmm.
a long time to figure this out.
My goodness. Yep.
So
Same in
so
the
then
military.
you're doing other, the work of two people or whatever. So it took me a long time to realize, and I am in the school of service in my hand analysis profile, in my soul blueprint, I'm in the school of service. And so I especially, and I believe you are too when we did yours. So I especially have to work on bringing myself into balance, like service to self versus service to others, because I do tend to overgive. And if I'm going to enter the rescue triangle, a lot of times, and I don't want to. No one wants to. That's the triangle of pain.
I
That's the
made that
point.
face
Like,
because I know that's where I've been,
yes,
right?
exactly. But when I feel that unconscious urge to enter, I'm usually entering as the rescuer. And it's coming from a place of overgiving, not necessarily as some people come in as the rescuer in other ways, in other types of rescuing, but the way that I'm trying to rescue is just by overgiving. Well, maybe if I give everything that they need, then they'll be okay. But see, that's like not teaching someone how to fish and fishing for them. And then ultimately, you're doing them a disservice in the long run because
Mm-hmm.
they don't actually know how to fish for themselves.
They
So
still don't
that's a
didn't
that's
grow.
about
They still don't know how to take care of
they
themselves,
don't
right?
they don't
Yeah.
they can't grow. Yeah. So
Yes.
I really have had huge struggles around this topic.
And it can come through in any relationship in your life, right? Not just um, well, not even just the closest. It can be coworkers, it can be friends. It comes from that deep need to serve. Like you said, we're service oriented beings anyway, as these star seeds, light workers, wanderers. But it's that belief that we came to save the world, right? And we come in with that savior complex, and we have to remember and relearn that it's about saving ourselves. And not even, I don't even love the term saving anymore, right? It's about remembering ourselves. and remembering who we are. And in that process of, doing that by example, then other people grow and heal and want, because they want the transformation that they've watched us undergo, right? They, oh, wow, like look at what Wendy and Angie are doing, right? How do we do that? Or they're going to be repelled by it, right? Well, how dare they? Like how, right? And so it's
Yeah.
kind of the two schools, right? It
Exactly.
depends on where they're at in their journey, and both are totally valid, and we don't judge either one. We tend to do it with people who want that assistance, right? They might be in victim mode, but they're not truly in receiving mode. And so they get, and not always will this happen, but they can in a long-term relationship, no matter what it is, right? Romantic or otherwise, they can become addicted to you over giving. And then you get caught in this cycle, right? And they're never learning, they're never growing, they're just letting you do it. And because they enjoy being in the, not enjoy, I shouldn't say it that way, because they're stuck in the victim mentality. And so, yeah, that, and I think awareness is huge. Awareness is everything. When you become aware that you're doing it, like you said, when you become aware that you're going into that the rescue triangle, um, sometimes we're not, initially we don't even know we're doing it until we become aware that, oh boy, I'm doing it again, and I know where this road leads, right? And so, and it could even be like, I remember, I've done it so much with female friends, with girlfriends, so much in my life, like just overgive, 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 overgive. I was drawn to this person who had a strong personality. I thought they had it all figured out. I needed somebody to teach me how to human because I had no idea how to do it. And so I'm drawn to these women who are these young girls even who aren't really in receiving mode, are very stuck, are very hurt, are in a lot of pain. And I just would give everything. Like, and you said it made me think of, you said giving 110%. It made me think of, somebody said to me once, we know that's not possible. You can only give 100. And I disagree. I think we can give more than 100. I think the 100 is what we're supposed to keep, right? And we're giving all of that, and then any overflow or anything that's right. I do feel like that's how we deplete ourselves. We are not even supposed to pour from a full cup. We're not supposed to pour at all. We're supposed to just allow the overflow to go where it needs to go. There's no pouring, there's no, we don't even have to be intentional about it. If we are overflowing with the unconditional love of source, with that energy, then it's just going to go where it needs to go. I can't even think of it as pouring out because then I'm being depleted in some way. So it's got to be more of a just constant overflow. But yeah, we fall into that as spiritual practitioners, right?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, we made some really good points earlier before we hopped on that some of the spaces where you can do it to the unconscious spaces are that feeling of unworthiness, right? And so you can come, if you're coming at all from a space of unworthiness or lack, you can have that tendency to overgive, right? Because you
Hmm.
don't see your own value. You don't see even the value in what you're giving. And so you can just overlook it over and over again. And I know, gosh, I'm so guilty as charged. Like, as I say it, like, I can't tell you how many times I didn't see what I was doing, how valuable it was, and just gave and gave and gave and
And
gave
we both.
until you hit that like level of resentment, which isn't, I mean, it's really still all on you,
Hmm.
right? It's not that anyone did anything. I'm not saying
Right.
that, but you do hit that resentment of, why am I the only one doing this and no one else is, and then it comes back to, well, you did make that choice. You
Hmm.
did say, oh, yes, I will do this. And, I was telling you of a real life situation that came up this weekend where, I gave and gave and gave and gave until we hit a point when, there were other people there to assist and help. And then they additionally wanted more. And it's a
Hmm.
boundary thing, right? At that point. And I said, no, listen, I have given all that I have to give right now. I'm depleted. I
Hmm.
don't have anything else to give. And so my boundary right now is no. And sometimes that can be really hard. And I know I ran into that in corporate because if you're someone that does have a lot of energy, which a lot of light workers do, we came with a lot of, our open energy centers, lots to give, and this is how we end up getting depleted and
Hmm.
exhausted, is because we do are those big light bulbs. And so
Hmm.
everybody looks to you like, "Oh my gosh, you have so much light. Like I want to tap in.
Hmm.
Like you're
Right.
like an electrical tower. Like how can
It's
I?"
magnetic. Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
magnetic. And then you end up with the one that has been sucked dry and everyone else has received, right?
And that's
So
not we used to think that was the only way to do it, right? I think,
no, it
and
is
give, give,
not
give,
the
give,
way to
give.
do it.
It's
Yeah,
not the way
it
to do
is.
it
And
at
like you
all.
said, the way to do it is you're full at 100%. Everything excess is just overflowing off of you and you're
Hmm.
able to stay at 100%. You're so right about that. And so, yeah, it's a boundary thing too. Like stepping it back into the real world again, not that we're not talking about the real world, but away from the
Right.
energy standpoint. It's like you have to set that boundary too. It is no one else's fault. If you have not spoken up and said, actually, no, this is not good for me. And then a lot of times when you do that, you actually see the reverse, that it is not good for the other person either, because they need
Absolutely.
to learn to do it for themselves. It's like I would always use the example with my clients that are in the School of Service and hand analysis. One of the examples I use, I shouldn't say in the past, like still, even if I'm doing a hand analysis, I'll say to people, when you're in the School of Service, I always use this story of the mom that's always constantly tying their kid's shoes, but then the kid never learns to tie their shoes and they get to kindergarten and then they're the kid that can't tie their shoes, right?
Hmm.
So that's a disservice. It might seem like a service in the moment because you're avoiding frustration, a conflict, crying. Okay,
And
let
it's
me
the
just do it
super
real
mom
quick.
syndrome, right? We just do it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just do
Let's
it.
just do it. I'll just do it
Yep.
for you.
I'll just do
But
it.
ultimately, you leave your child not able to do something that they need to know how to do. So that's a
That
great,
takes literally 5 minutes to
yeah.
learn for most
It
kids.
actually hurts you later that they
Mhm.
don't know how to tie their shoes. My kids took a very long time to learn, so that's why I use that
Yes,
example. But
I did. I took a very long time to learn. I had one of those moms, right, who just did it because she just wanted it
yeah,
done, right? Yeah. No,
yeah.
no shade on her, right? That's a mom
You're
thing.
right. Yeah. And if your child's having a really hard time doing something, sometimes then you do end up doing it for them. But
Sure.
ultimately, some things are just harder to learn for other people, and you have to step back and realize that they're taken care of. Like they've got it, right? Their inner being knows, and they do have the capacity to break through. It's not your job to rescue them. And
Hmm.
so these are things I've had to think about in the last couple of days. I've really gone into
Yep.
some overgiving spots
Oh,
and
goodness, yeah.
even ended up having a realization about that this morning and then we ended up on this topic. So
Hmm.
yeah, so it's so important that we recognize when we're doing it and from what place. And sometimes we can rescue people from a place of an egoic place of because we want them to be in a different place, right? We
Hmm.
want them to be
Oh, gosh.
either further along or making a choice because um, they have something that they didn't have when we are able to give it to them, right? But ultimately, that's disempowering for them too, because they're not in
Mhm.
their own power making that choice,
Yeah.
doing that thing. It didn't come from within them. It came because we gave it to them.
Oh, goodness,
And
yeah.
not that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying don't give or don't donate or all of those things are
Right. We're not
important. It
saying don't
feels
give.
good to
Right.
us, right?
Yeah.
It feels good to us. I'm only saying that in certain scenarios, if you really look and see what you're doing, just giving someone but if it's coming from a place, I only mean if this is coming from a place so that it's better for you, right? That's egoic, and you're giving to make it better for you, then that's detriment to them. If you're just
Hmm.
giving to give, like if you love to donate or, donate to causes, or that's completely different.
Yeah.
You're not
Pure,
doing
pure
that to
heart
make it better for
energy.
you,
Right. That's
right?
beautiful. You're right.
You're doing that from a pure place of, I just purely want to give. There's
Hmm.
no strings attached. You don't owe, no one owes you anything, right? It's
Right.
not, it only makes your life, it enhances your life because you feel good doing it. You feel so much joy doing it. That's
Hmm.
where that needs to come from. And ultimately, even when we are overgiving, I do believe a lot of times that is where we're coming from, is a place of just ultimately wanting to serve, except sometimes we're not looking and deciding if it's actually good for the person. Or is it
Right.
inhibiting them from their growth? Is it disempowering them ultimately?
Right. And it comes down to, what we talk about a lot is you're not supposed to try to heal anybody else. All we
Mhm.
can do is heal ourselves, and they're either going to ask for advice or guidance or mentorship from us, which we can then give, or they're going to learn just from example, from watching us do it. And it's hardest, I think, with those closest to you, right? Like a partner. Pre-2020 or during the last 6 years, there have been a lot of couples that have one has embarked on the healing journey and the other one hasn't. And so there's been a lot of, they actually were calling, were referring to them, the time frame that we were in. They were blaming that, for like the uptick in divorces, where I look at it as it was something that needed to happen anyway, right? Like people were being shown by being forced in small places with each other for long periods of time. They were being shown like where they were out of alignment in a very profound way. And so, yes, a lot of splits happened the last 5, 6 years because of that situation where we were forced to hibernate, really, when maybe we didn't really want to. But it was a great, if we want to pull the silver lining, which Angie and I are always about the silver lining, there's always a positive, everything works for the light, is that time period was so beneficial for humanity because so many of us now came out of it going, oh, I know what I want now. Or I know I don't want that. And so it's
Mhm.
a path of letting the things that you no longer want fall away. Instead of I want to get rid of that, it's more focusing on your new north, right? Your new north star. Where do you want to go? And for a lot of people in the last 5 years, it's a totally different path, right? So many
Yep.
people are just on a totally different path now. So it was hugely beneficial. I'm not trying to diminish any of the tragedy that went along with it, but overall, for humanity, it was a huge uptick in frequency, and I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it as that. Yeah. So, and for me personally, my marriage of 30 years, I just realized that that was not something that I wanted anymore. But we both came out of that time period knowing that it was different, and I wanted something more. And it was not about him not rising to the occasion, but us realizing that we were no longer in alignment and possibly hadn't been in a long time. We were just going through the motions. And you think about like our parents, yours and my parents were boomers, right? And boomers, that's what you did. You didn't get divorced. You just went along with you stayed on the ride until
Mhm.
the ride stopped, right? And that was just how they operated. And it was for them, it was the honorable thing to do, right? But
Right.
really, it was settling for a certain path where where very few people met their full potential, in my opinion, right? And now I feel like this being Gen X, we're like this transition generation where our kids, which I've actually got 3 generations in my children, but our kids are hopefully going to be coming into adulthood and into their 30s even in a much better world for them to follow their passions instead of like what we were told, right? That you can follow your dreams in your spare time, but you have to have a good job first and all this stuff. And so it's a whole pattern that I think we're breaking free of. But those of us who came knowing that we came here to assist with this transition, right? We kind of jumped in whole hog. Like I know Angie and I often say Angie and I were like Hermione in potions class. We're like, yes, 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 us, pick us, pick us. We want to go, we want to go. Because we were so gung-ho when we got here, right, to do the job. They were like, okay, here we are. We're going to save the world. We're going to save everybody. And we get to work, right? And like you were saying, even as a little girl, even like a lot of us came into families where we're the only ones still who are on this path, right? Who are aware of the path. And so we spend our childhoods trying to get people to understand us. And that's where the overgiving starts, right? It's like, oh, well, they like it when I like my brother. Oh, he likes it when I do his chores for him. Then he's nice to me. Oh, maybe that means he understands me, right? And so we just begin that pattern, I think, really young as starseeds, wanderers, light workers, because we have a need to fit in initially because we come in human and we've forgotten who we are, right? And we're like, oh, is this? And we're watching other people going, oh, that's how we do it. And so we start to learn from them, and then we just start doing more and more and more and more until we're these huge overgivers who are so depleted that we can't even, attend to our own needs.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
Wow.
rant. That's my rant.
It was your TED Talk. I loved it. It's so true. And it's so harmful to ourselves. And like ultimately, really, if we really look at it, a lot of times it can not be helpful to other people fully, right? When
Absolutely.
we're
They've
really,
got to claim their own power at
yeah.
some point, right?
And if we're being inauthentic, I mean, in a way, what you're describing is us realizing, oh, okay, if I do this like this, then this makes everyone happy, but that's inauthentic too. And so
Exactly.
that's a detriment to other people too, because then they start to think that you're someone that you're not, and they expect that and they
Right.
make that impression in their mind, right? Because you're a projection of their thoughts of who you are, right? And so then when you really can't be that any longer, when you're really aligning with your true self, it can be very disruptive to the people around you.
Oh yeah, they don't like it at
Very,
all. They want
very
you to be that
difficult,
person. Right.
right? Because, but ultimately, it's it's also again us taking responsibility for the fact that it's like, well, yeah, I was not acting from my true self, right?
Hmm.
And no one, I'm not saying you're at fault or someone else is at fault for that, but you know, and that can just happen, like living in the world. You can just over time, it's just easier for other people if you don't act like your true self, right?
Right.
And that's why so many people don't do it. They don't take this path. They don't decide to awaken and truly become everything that they're meant to be. Like you said, they stay in the relationship. They do the things that hold them back versus the things
Hmm.
that are going to propel them forward
Right.
because it's easier.
Or they continue to overgive until they get sick,
Yep.
right? Like
Yeah, get
we've
sick. They can't,
certainly
and then they can't
delayed
even take care of themselves. And then they have to
exactly.
receive and
Yeah.
let people take care of them finally. It's
Right.
such a big thing. And I really just, I'm so glad we're talking about it because I think,
Hmm.
especially for women, I think it's a huge topic for women.
Well, I think
Huge.
it's feminine
I
energy,
think
right? I think
for
it's kind of warped feminine energy to overgive.
It is, especially if it comes from a place of control. Like, if, well, and I know women like this. It's like if I'm the one doing everything, then I get to call all the shots, right? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
fully in control. I'm the one that gets to say. And that's true. And that's coming from ego too, because it's coming from control. It's not coming from pure desired, pure service, pure open-hearted service, right? It's
Right.
not. And that is a thing that that generation prior to us, and even prior to that, grew up with that level of control. If I'm doing everything, then no one can say anything
Right.
right about it because I'm the one that does
Right.
it. But then that can move into like, well, no one does it good enough, so I have to be the one to do it, right? So it can turn
Right.
into like all of these different sort of egoic patterns that really aren't serving. They're not serving the person that's doing it either, right? It's
No,
just
they're
all
not.
out of control. So it's kind of an
Hmm.
unraveling of really looking and what I would say is really look every time you are faced with a service opportunity, like here's a really good takeaway for this, and this is something I've used in hand analysis for years. It's like, is it good for me? Is it good for them? And do I want to do it? And constantly go through this checklist in your mind because if you're getting a no on one of these, like it's actually not good for them. It's actually
Hmm.
not good for me. And maybe you don't even want to do it at all. This comes from my hand
Right.
analysis training. Then you need to be aware of this and even thinking of the place, where does the desire to serve come from? Does it come from a need to control? Does it come from you benefiting because someone else is different, because you want them to be different? And
Yeah.
so that comes from a selfish place, right? Or is it pure open-hearted? I want to serve because it brings me so much joy. And then that's the perfect spot. That's the place where, like Wendy said, your light bulb's at 100%. You can be 1,000-watt bulb, right? Lighting up the
Absolutely.
world
And you
because
can
you're at
give
a
from all that
hundred.
excess,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
you're
you're never
you're
depleted then.
fully, yeah, you're just coming from a pure heart of service. There's
Yes.
no one owes you. You're not
Yes, I
expecting
love that.
anything in
Right.
return. You're
No
not doing
expectations.
it for some selfish reason on your part, on your side. That is pure service. So
Yeah.
we can all work to be at that place. I know I'm not saying
Right.
I'm
We're not
there. I'm not saying
claiming
Wendy's there. I'm
we're
saying we
not
can
claiming to be
all
there at all, but
we're not Mother Teresa
but
yet, right? Like we're
awareness, right? Awareness of where we're going. Awareness is huge. Once you're aware, you can never.
yeah.
I actually just had written this kind of this line working on the book yesterday is once you're aware that you're doing something, you can never be that person who was unaware again. But you can continue down the path and continue feeling like crap about it.
Yep.
That's a choice. At that point, you're making a conscious choice, right?
Yep.
But I love
Yep.
too how this is really speaking a lot to, like, obviously it's all connected, right? But speaking so much about the dynamic of this is so much parenting, right? Which I've
Yeah.
been like kind of consumed
That's
with
your
lately.
book.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
and it's shifting, y'all. It's shifting. If you have not felt it, like I credit my 18-year-old who's a Gen Z. I tell him all the time, he's my third. I tell him all the time that he really taught me how to be a mom because the older two I raised in kind of the old paradigm and I just did what everybody else was doing. I was a soccer mom, they were public school, everything. And they thrived and they were fine. They tell me that they're fine anyway. But then this third one came along right when I was going through this spiritual transition, right? And this new energy coming in of and the overgiving. It's like we have always, as moms, had trouble letting go of doing things for them, right? And that's natural and that's normal and that's beautiful because we want to always nurture them, right? And do things for them. But you're talking about tying the shoes and it's when we and I think about too, like my kids, when they turn 16, they do their own laundry. I no longer do laundry for a 16-year-old and older because then
Mm-hmm.
by the time they go to college, they know how to do laundry really well because they've ruined plenty of things by then, right? They can
Right. That's
ask. It's not
awesome.
like I'm not going to help, but I don't do it for them anymore. But it is hard to let go of certain things too, like even being and I think moms are always emotional support, like that's our main job for our children.
Mm-hmm.
But even that we can't overgive in that space. They have got to learn. If you've given them the foundation, they've got to learn to be able to falter a little bit and pick themselves back up and manage their own emotions. And so that's a huge I think that's kind of a huge subtopic of this. It's like we do overgive to our kids and for the first 15 at least years of their lives, I think we're meant to. I think that's okay. And so it wouldn't be seen as overgiving, right? It's just parenting, it's caring for children and teaching them how to care for themselves. But now we're in this space of, right, this overgiving is just, we're so aware of it, right? We're so aware of it. And humanity, we tend to swing the pendulum too far the other direction when we become aware of something. And so then we had there are people that I still know, but we had this kind of time frame where and maybe it was our parents, I don't know, but then they're like, we're not doing a dang thing for you. We're not going to do
Yeah.
anything for you. It's like, oh, okay, like, we laugh. Gen X, we were raised on hose water and neglect. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
much the joke, right?
Playing
And
kick the
so,
can in the middle of the night, right?
right, yes. And as long as we were home by the time the streetlights came on, we weren't grounded, right? They didn't give a crap where we were all day,
Yeah. And
especially in the
I'm
summer.
on the millennial cusp too.
You
So
are, yeah.
I relate to millennials too, which is funny because
Yeah.
they are, I feel like, pretty there's a lot of contrast between the generations. So I think
And I
I
have a
run into
sister
that
who's a
within myself too,
millennial. Yeah,
that being on the cusp, I run into contrast within myself around just how different
I'm
the two are, but
sure.
I carry both energies. It's funny.
Yeah, yeah. My youngest sister is a like an older on that older cusp of millennial as well, and so yeah, she's definitely got a different vibe. And so being having both of that, like you're literally a transition, right?
Hmm.
Person come here to really aid in that bigger transition of getting us into an energy where we're more aware of our own, like really what it comes down to is we're more aware of our own situation. Like, okay, where am I at energetically? Can I, like you, I'm so proud of you. You said no this past weekend when you needed to say no. You didn't even think about it. Whereas 10 years ago, Angie oh, you're right. I better help and blah, blah. And then you'd be exhausted, even more exhausted than you already, would have been after a weekend of that kind of thing, right? And so it's about learning how to say no too, when you're aware that you just cannot do it from the right space and you're going to hurt people are going to get their feelings hurt and people are like when it's a partnership and like I was talking about one might be more aware of the journey and really go in gangbusters and the other one's like but I like this 3D life and there's a push pull there, right? At some point that person who's aware of the journey, if this other person isn't coming along, first of all, even if they do come along, they've got their own journey. You can't do it for them, no matter how much you love them and no matter how much you want them to come along and be standing next to you. And I'm not saying that it means the end of the relationship either, right? This is the beautiful thing that Angie and I have come to realize. It's like you can let go of somebody and they don't leave. And that's when the beautiful, deep soul connection relationship can really take hold and can really really blossom then from that space. It's like when you've both let go of expectation, of attachment, of codependency, of trauma bond, of all these things, they might still be there. No, that shouldn't be the goal, but, and I know that's hard, that's easier said than done. It shouldn't be the goal. But at the same time, if there's a relationship, and this could be even non-romantic, right? But if there's a relationship, sibling, friend, whatever, that you would love to save, right? That you want to jump in and be the savior, go your own path. It's the only way, because the more you overgive and stay in that savior energy, the more you're delaying what needs to happen. And so whether they're going to stay around or not, it's going to be in both your highest goods. But I always say, if you ignore the whispers, right, what happens?
Hmm.
The universe drops a piano
Yep.
on your head.
Yep. The
And
piano
you
or
and
the
you
cliff, with the
or you get
sticks.
thrown off the cliff.
They're
Basically,
pointy.
the universe rips it from your grasp at some point. Because if
Hmm.
you're going to hang around, you have to keep moving forward. And so the more you hold on to somebody who's holding you back, the more you're holding both of you back. Because you doing it for them is not letting them do it for themselves, and they're not moving
Thank you.
forward. So you could be the one, the culprit, right? You could be
Yep.
the one holding both of you. You're complaining, oh, they're not coming, they're not coming, they're not coming. Well, you're trying to save them. And I'm talking to myself right now, and I realize this. I'm absolutely talking to myself. Is you're constantly trying to go in and go, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. And that is keeping them from moving forward, essentially.
Yeah.
Bam.
I so resonate. Put
Dropping the truth
yep.
bomb.
Yeah, exclamation point on that for sure. That is so true. I feel like you wrapped it up really well. I feel like I don't think there's anything else we can add. Yeah,
Because that
so I
was
think we did a little bit around
okay.
if you're showing up inauthentically,
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah,
censoring yourself for someone else, then ultimately that's not serving anyone
that's true.
either.
Yes.
But that is kind of overgiving because you're kind of like, well, I'm going to give the way that I speak in a way that's better for the other person. But
Give my
really,
small
over
self.
time, yeah, I'm going to give my small self to keep everyone happy, to kind of go along to get along. But ultimately, that hurts everyone in the long run too. Because if people are being inauthentic, then we don't actually know who they are. And it's more detrimental to find out that there's someone completely different than what we thought. It's even detrimental for them to go through that, as we
Right.
know, right?
Yeah.
Than to just be authentic from the get-go. We realize we're not calling anyone out on this. Our just being a human in society puts you in a space of being inauthentic. Going
Hmm.
to public school systems, any school system, all of it puts you
Where
on the
it's just
track to
out of
hide
survival,
who
right?
you are. And then
Right.
remembering, like Wendy said, and stepping into your true self is remembering and becoming again your authentic and true self. And,
Absolutely.
there's nothing wrong with it at all. It just is the journey and it is what it is. And some people decide to become their true selves and some don't. And
Hmm.
ultimately, there's no harm in either choice. It's just we know, and why we're out here sharing, there's a lot more freedom and joy to be had in this lifetime, becoming your true essence, becoming
Right.
all that you can become and all that you
Right.
already are, right?
That
So,
diamond under the all the dirt and everything. Yeah. And I think
yeah.
about, because somebody had asked me, well, why did we make it so difficult where there's a lot of pairings where one person is becoming aware so much sooner, or becoming aware in general, the other person never does, or takes
Hmm.
forever to come, and then the relationship has to end. It's pushing other people out of their comfort zones and forcing them to look at their own healing journey in a more visceral way. And yes, it's more painful, but it's really getting a lot more people to come along, if you think of it that way. We are saving humanity. You just have to do it in a more, you have to think about it in a more divinely selfish way, right? By your own, through your own journey. But it's also, it's interesting to think, okay, if we were already all coupled up, then we'd already have this kind of sub society that's moving forward, and everybody else would be over here. But really, we're all intermingled, because there are people who maybe need just, they need to, it's going to be a little harder for them to get into this awareness space. But planting that seed is all it took, right? And they may take a
Yeah.
little longer, but they'll get there.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah. I love it.
yeah,
Okay.
I
Well,
think.
I think we should wrap it up there.
Oh goodness.
And if you need support around this, of course, reach out to Wendy and I
Please
and
do.
check out our services below. Yeah.
Thank you for
Watch
being
out
here.
for my book coming out June 3rd, Goddess CEO. This is
I
for
don't know what
spiritual
side you're on.
entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Yes. So this is basically my business manifesto for spiritual entrepreneurs of, when you come out of an environment like Wendy and I very much resonate with, of, hustle and go and push and very masculine, and you want to do it a different way, but it feels impossible at times with how the world and business has been set up. I have gone through the paces of learning how to do things from a feminine way because I had to, because the universe would just drop me on my butt every time I tried not to. So I've
Hmm.
had to learn and I want to share. It's The Divine Feminine Path to Wealth is the
And
book.
I
It's
have had
Run
a
Your Business
front
Like
row
a Goddess.
seat and
You
can
have,
contest to
she's
all
the
of this.
editor. So if you need a book edited, Wendy is your woman. She's amazing. I absolutely love my book. I did a read through yesterday. I'm so excited for June 3rd.
It's good, girl. It's good.
Thank you. And stay tuned for Wendy's Parenting Through Ascension
I'm
book.
so
I'm not
excited
sure if
about it.
that's the title, but
Pretty
that's her
sure.
jam. That's her
Yeah.
jam. So if you're going through awakening and parenting at the same time, this is your book.
Whole nother level of
Hmm.
badassery, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Badass goddessness. Yes.
Yep. Thank you for being here. Hopefully, you'll join us in the next episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye,
Bye,
goddess.
goddess.